كلا سيعلمون. So here we have kella. This word kella in Arabic is of rebuking or forbidding something. For example, if you disagree, sometimes you say kella, kella, yani. It's the rebuke or a forbiddance of that, or say refusing something. And then we have sayalamun. They they're going to know, in the future. And the evidence that this is in the future is the scene that we have the scene that's used to indicate the future. So they go, even though now in the present time there are people denying that there's a resurrection and the day of judgment. It doesn't mean that because they don't believe it, there is nothing. You can't just deny something and it's going to just be as you assume. Even if someone denies that there is a day of judgment, they're going to know. This is what God has promised. And how are they going to know? They're going to see, when people die, they're going to go to their grave, and after that, they're going to, on the judgment day, they're going to see the hellfire and they're going to see the paradise. So this is why there's a strong rebuke here and forbiddance that, kalla sayalamun, they're going to know for sure. And then the next verse tells us that thumma kalla sayalamun. Thumma is used to demonstrate something is going to happen after that, but not straight away. If it was going to be straight away, we would have fa. Fa is when something happens straight after, one thing happens straight after another thing. But thumma conveys that there's a time period. They're going to know something, and then after some time, they're going to know. It's here in this Tafseer, we're told that this is not for repetition. Thumma is referring to the prolonged period of time. So they're going to come to know twice, 2 times. Because we have different types of knowing things. We have the ilm al-yaqeen, the certain knowledge, and ayn al-yaqeen, which means the certainty of sight when you see something. Because ayn al-yaqeen, ayn is from your eyes. When you see something, it's you can't doubt the things that you see normally unless you're having a hallucination. And haqq al-yaqeen, which means the certain truth, you know for sure. So here it's been translated that, or explained that, no, they're going to know, and this refers to the fact that they will know with certainty of sight when they see themselves in either paradise or hellfire. They will see the paradise or the hellfire, and then after a period of time, they're going to know, which means they're going to see people enter these places, and they are going to enter into the hellfire, and there will be another group entering paradise. So they're going to see with their eyes, which is ayn al-yaqeen. And then the fact that it will happen to them is haqq al-yaqeen. So this is referring to 2 stages. The stage of certainty of sight and the certainty of truth. And somehow the hereafter has been connected here with signs of the universe. So for people who are doubting the things that they cannot see, Allah gives evidence of the things that we can see, and we can verify if they're true or not. This will help us to understand, is this is the Quran really telling us something true? Because if all the Quran was just telling us just about the Day of Judgment, it would be very easy to doubt that, because we don't see it. We have no way of knowing about these things. But at the same time, the Quran tells us about things that we can know and science can confirm. And this gives us evidence and reassurance of the truth of the Quran. The Quran is telling us about things that we can see. So then it's kind of logical that even the things that we can't see are true as well, if the other things are true. So Allah has told us that Alam naj'alil arda mihada. Have we not made the earth a resting place? Mihad is like a cradle. The bed that you put your child in. It's like a place of peace and tranquility in the cradle, and gives child a comfort. And it's interesting that the earth has been said to be a resting place. I mean, often if someone wants to rest, they actually lie down on the earth. I mean, yes, we have beds nowadays, so we lie on the bed. But I mean, often you see in films or the stories that we hear in the past, people who worked in the fields or they worked in the farmers, like when they want to take rest, maybe they'll just go lie down in the grass or lie down on some place and sleep for some time. And when someone wants to rest, they sit down or they lie down. They go close to the earth. It's some sort of it gives us some sort of tranquility, as it's saying here, peace and tranquility. There's I mean, even I read somewhere that walking barefoot on the earth is actually very good for the body, and it actually gives you peace and tranquility somehow. To have your skin touch the earth, it's get rid of stress, and it's sort of it affects us in a it makes us feel at ease and peace and so forth. And the same thing when we prostrate, we put our head on the earth, and this is also said to make us feel peace and tranquility and connected. There's something about the earth that makes us feel connected somehow, because probably there's part of us was created from the earth. And another miracle here is one of the scientific things. وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا. Awtada are stakes used for fastening. So mountains have been compared to stakes, like the ropes that fix tents into the earth. So this is related to science, and this is very easy to verify. So if the Quran was not from Allah, and it's not true, if it's not saying something true, all people have to do is just come along and say that, well, your Quran is saying that the mountains make firm the earth in its movements, and well, they don't, and then bring some sort of evidence. When the Quran is talking about the earth and talking about things we can see, it's very easy for people, if it's not true, to come and say so, to come and bring an evidence. But the fact that that doesn't happen, and the fact that we continually hear of scientists and scientific theories that actually strengthen the Quran and its arguments, that the Quran tells us something, and then we find scientists who have no relationship to religion often, they just find these things randomly and it just agrees with Quran. So this is like the confirmation of Quran, and this is why I think Allah reminds us of these things that we can see, to help us to accept the things that we can't see, that maybe we sometimes get confused or doubt about. So even here it says that if the Prophet ﷺ had said that the Quran had said that the earth is moving, no one would accept this. For this reason, it's explained that as stakes, and not that they are stakes. So this is to do with the accuracy of the Arabic language, because they are not in themselves stakes. So to say that they are is not entirely accurate, but subhanallah, Allah is, the Quran is very accurate and very, it gets straight to the point when it talks about such things. So you'll not find somewhere in the Quran that it says, something that's even slightly incorrect. So Allah has told us that as steaks, as if they are steaks, but they're not exactly. They're like them. You can compare them to them. So the mountains, they make the earth firm when it goes around itself and around the sun. So these stakes, they firstly fix the movement of the earth, and then secondly, they fix the earth's crust sheets, because otherwise they would crack. So the mountains, Allah has made them with a specific purpose. And this also demonstrates, for people who reflect on that everything in the world and everything in life has a purpose. And mountains and stuff, maybe we just see them and we don't really think much about them, but they have this purpose. They fix the movements and they fix the earth's crust sheets. And these facts were not proved until the 20th century. So before that, obviously the Sahaba and the early Muslims, they were just believing in these things, and they probably did not understand as well as we do. But they believed in the Quran, and they believed in the Day of Judgment more than us. They had stronger faith, but they had less of these kind of evidences from science. We have more of these evidences from science, and yet somehow we don't have that strong faith. But these things, if we think about them, and if we see that the science is actually helping to prove the Quran, this should strengthen our faith and make us more inclined to accept the truth of the Quran. And even in the things we can't see, these things that Allah is telling us about that we can see, they're helping us to understand that even the things we can't see, they're also true. Because how can we see something that happens in the future and that's not in front of us? That's only logical. For this reason, we don't see the Day of Judgment. وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. And according to this tafsir, this is the biggest scientific miracle. Because we did not see the creation of the heavens, of the earth, or the human being. And he says about how human beings have been created in pairs, azwaja, the male and the female. And obviously this is also in contrast to some of the ideas that are going around now, that you have male and female, and then you have some sort of other kind of gender. But actually, according to science and according to logic and according to the Quran, there's two genders. There's male and female, and we all know what is a male and what is a female. So we don't really need to explain very much about that. But the Quran explains how the human being was created, altered from black mud, then to clay. Then he becomes dry and then degrades and turns into soil and water. So the creation of the human being was explained in the Quran in various places, but here it's not explained in detail. We're just told that Allah has created the human being, and He's created people in pairs, male and female. But in general, we find in many verses of the Quran that things in general were created in pairs. So it's as if even the plants, even the animal. I mean, we know the animals, but plants and trees, and plants and vegetations and so forth. They have pairs. I don't think you can really call them genders, but there's like pairs linked with things, but and sometimes azwaj refers to similarities of the soul as well. In some places of the Quran, we find that people are linked together, as azwaj or zawjat, because they are similar, maybe in their beliefs or in their nature. So they've come together. Often the Quran might refer to azwaj as people coming together because of similarities. So azwaj, it refers to the male and the female generally, but it also sometimes refers to people pairing up or coming together because of some similarity. For example, the souls of people on the Day of Judgment are said to zawwijat. They're going to come together, and it's not referring to the male and the female at that time. It's referring to the people who are not believing coming together to be together, and the people who believe coming together to be together. So people who are similar, they have a similar beliefs and similar temperaments or similarities. They come together, and it's like a connection. But generally here, it's pairs, the male and the female, and this is how humanity has begun, and how it continues with these two genders. And this is why, Islam asks us to get married and have a family with the opposite gender and so forth. It's not, people, they argue for the rights of people to marry the same gender and so forth, but humanity would not continue if we allowed that. People can't have children with the same gender. We know this from science. It's not about we hate people. It's not about that we want harm for people. Rather, we want good for humanity. So we want to encourage people to marry and with the other gender and have families with the opposite gender, because each gender brings their own difference and uniqueness, and these two that come together, they are what creates a family. And it's not just the physical body. There's mentalities and there's qualities in the male different to a female, and this balance is what makes a family, and it's beneficial for each gender to be with the other. Men, they tend to lean towards women. They need things from women, and women need things from men. And at the same time, if children are going to be raised in a family, they get these qualities and attributes from both the genders. So it's like a complete something complete for them. They have these two genders, each giving their own qualities and giving them the ideas of what they will expect in the future from other males and females. And in general, we receive nurture more from our mothers, and this is natural because we were in the wombs of our mothers, and it's natural that a woman, after giving birth, is going to be closer to the child and take more care of it. But men, on the other hand, they offer other qualities in terms of child rearing and looking after the child, and how being the leader of the family and so forth. In general, I think in most cultures it's this way. So the male and the female, they each have their own qualities, and they are what keeps humanity going. So we're asked to be proud of our own gender, not to wish to be another gender. For example, to dress and behave as a woman when we are a woman, and to dress and behave as a man when we are a man. This makes the society peaceful and without problems, without confusion. People, they use the bathroom for women, for example, when they are a woman, and they use the bathroom for men when they are a man, and there's no confusion in society this way. And when people take care of their self in their own gender, they'll feel more comfortable and proud of that. And when they go to have their family, um, yeah, they each bring their qualities and attributes to help continue humanity. Anyway, that's enough of that. And obviously, the male was not. We're told that the male came before the female because Adam was created before Hawa, but it doesn't mean that he is superior because just being before someone, how does that make them superior? But obviously there are people who don't believe, atheists, and they believe that the human being came about coincidentally. But then how would the female come about? So we're told that the male, Adam, was created before the female. He was created directly. And then after some time, Allah created the female from the rib of Adam. He was lonely and he created his mate from the rib of Adam. And I think because of this closeness, it's the reason why sometimes we see in the Quran that it's as if Allah is just talking to Adam and referring to Adam. And maybe some women might feel left out. They might wonder, why is only Adam mentioned, not women? It's as if that the Quran is blaming Adam for the eating of the apple in the paradise more than Eve. But my understanding more is that because these two are one pair and they're close, when Allah speaks to the male, to Adam, it's as if they're both being spoken to. And at the same time, Adam was going to tell his wife. So it's the message for both of them. But in general, there are reasons why the male are addressed more in the Quran than the women. It's got nothing to do with superiority, but there are good reasons. One of them is that the main reason is probably that in a time of when the Quran was revealed, women did not have a place in society. So the Quran had to be referred to men, and men would tell their wives. So it was the message for men and women, but because women did not have a high place in the beginning, the message was told to men, and the men were told what to say to their wives, and they were told how to treat their wives. And women are often referred to in the Quran as like men. We find them in the same verses and they get the same rewards. So there's no superiority here or something. But because of the social structure in the past, men were spoken to, and they were referred that they went to tell the women, and also because women they have the more tendency, in the Arab society and in general, to be hidden. But the Quran does remind us of women, for example, Maryam and so forth. So I don't think this is the reason. The reason was that the Quran could not be told to women because in that society at that time, women didn't have a place and they didn't even have a voice to speak. The Quran gave them the voice and gave them their place in society by telling the men how to treat the women. So this is why we find many verses talking to men and telling them maybe to tell something to the women, or saying something about women, but not directly. But in essence, male and female, with the Quran itself says so, that the male and the female, they have the same rewards in the hereafter, and they have the same, in general, the same rulings apply to men and women. Both men and women have to pray and fast and so forth. The same rulings apply in general, just some things that maybe are slightly different for women and slightly different for men. But the same rulings apply for men and women, just that some things are more suitable for the nature of women, and some things might be more suitable for the nature of men, And this has nothing to do with superiority or someone being better than another. It's just that this is more suitable for this person than that person. And because the Quran actually told men how to treat women, this gave them the higher place and higher respect, because women were being killed before they be many girls were buried alive in that time because the Arabs didn't like females. So obviously the Quran could not tell this to the women, don't be buried alive. It had to go to tell the men that, on the Day of Judgment, this girl who was buried alive, she's going to complain. She's going to ask why was she's going to ask about why was she buried alive, why was she killed. So by telling them the males, this gave the females more rights and a place in society, so and more equalities. And here we have verse 9, وَجَعَلْنَا نَوْمَكُمْ سُبَاتًا, and we made your sleep a means for rest. And sleep is obviously very important for us, and there's many scientific benefits of sleep, and sleep has helped us to repair our body and relax our mind and relax ourselves. Maybe I will speak more about sleep in the next one, but just here I'll explain. Subata means the separation of a human being from movement. When the human being sleeps, his soul is kept within him, but he has separated it from movement. And we're told that sleep is very close to death. It's actually akin to death, and this is why people are afraid often of that they will not wake up, and why death happens to some people when they are asleep. Because when people sleep, their soul actually leaves their body and it goes somewhere. I mean, sometimes we are actually seeing things in other places because the soul does go places. But then if someone is not going, it's not their time to die, the soul will return to their body. But if it's not their if it's their time, the soul will not return, and is not related to age. People have this issue that everything is from our age. Most things are not to do with our age at all, and the thing about death is that it can happen at any age. I mean, someone told me about a girl who was 22 and she went to sleep and she did not wake up, and there was nothing wrong with her. She was not ill or anything. So we have to be aware that whatever our age is, at any time, if we go to sleep, we might not return. And it's not just about sleep as well. I mean, at any time, you don't know when your death will come. But sleep is related to death. But in general, in our daily lives, is for rest, to return the body so that we can continue our lives and continue to do what we have to do in the day. And this is why sleep can sometimes be a form of worship. Worship is not just praying and fasting and so forth. Worship is anything that we have an intention to come closer to God with. So if we go to sleep and we are very tired, and we know that if we sleep early, for example, we can wake up and pray Tahajjud, or we can wake up and do something. We can read Quran, or even we can go to work and support our families. We can do many useful and good things, and we have the intention for the sake of Allah. This has become worship, so we get reward for this sleep. So it's very easy to get reward from these things. And of course, if someone dies when they have this intention, they're going to die in worship. So this is why we should make good intentions when we sleep. Okay, assalamu alaikum.